This is a phenomenon that I have seen over the years time and time again, and I bet a lot of you have seen this, where if you're sitting there lukewarm in terms of libido, erections, and well-being on TRT, and you raise your dose, whether you gap out the frequency, you're injecting more at once, or you increase the total weekly dose from 150 to 175, from 175 to 200, from 2 to 250, suddenly everything improves. Erections, rock hard, rigid, and back. Libido, totally insatiable. It's back. But then, after what's usually a brief period of time, it regresses again, back to the mean. Libido takes a nosedive. Erection quality, back to where you were. Now you've got ED again. You're on the higher doses. It improved everything, and then all regressed. Why does this happen? We'll discuss the 5 potential culprits, go through the process of elimination, look at the scientific literature, and which of them actually has proof behind their cause of your regression back down after you improve initially from increasing your dose of TRT. Because this is a puzzling phenomenon, and a lot of people I know go through this, and at the end of this video, you will have the definitive science-based answer on why. After increasing your dose, everything improves, and then it suddenly just regulates and goes back to normal and regresses again. We'll talk about desensitization of the androgen receptors. We're going to talk about dysregulated neurosteroids and how that might be playing a role. We'll talk about sex hormone binding globulin and that lowering, and that, how that might have something to do with it. We'll talk about more suppression of the HPTA via more test. And then lastly, we're going to talk about estradiol, the mechanics of, in that period of the androgens rising, what the estradiol does and how that may play a role in this. So sit back, strap in, relax, because I'm about to answer a pretty important question. Why, when you raise your dose and everything's great for 2 to 3 weeks, does it regress back to square one? All right, before we start the video, Low Cortex Labs, which is my company, is a TRT guidance and sexual dysfunction resolution company. Got a range of different products around those topics. The most popular of which right now is high-dose TRT mastery. I mean, look, if you're tired of playing with small and medium-dose TRT and you want to actually get out of test what you've always wanted out of test, but also keep the libido and erections in a great place while enjoying cycle-level strength and anabolism, just get high-dose TRT mastery. It's a video course, shows you everything. It's about an hour long. The contents in this course will change the game. Instant download, it can be yours in a minute, and it's 20% off codes on the screen. Look, if you need to hire me for either a single session call or long-term coaching, this is all I do. The 2 most popular consults are the TRT Protocol Audit. It's a 25-minute call with me. I'll audit your entire protocol, give you a suggestion how to fix your biggest problems. And the literal most popular consult is the TRT Sexual Function Enhancement Consult. So this is if you're having specifically libido and erection issues on TRT and you want to get this resolved, this is the consult to book. Right? You can book me for major issues that are long-standing, ongoing coaching, and you can find all this stuff down in the description of this video or at livecortex.com. All right, so you get the gist of it, right? You're having libido and erection issues. You're told by your practitioner, your provider, or somebody on the web, just increase your dose. Increase your dose will help it. There are actually providers out there that suggest increasing your dose into oblivion to get rid of all the problems that they should be addressing otherwise. Because this is what happens when you increase the dose. Yes, the erections come back, the libido comes back, sensation comes back, you feel great, you're looking great, you're anabolic, you're energized. It seems like everything's headed in the right direction, or you fixed your TRT problems. But then at week 3 or week 4, though the anabolism and energy stay, the sexual function plummets. Why does this happen? Let's talk about the 5 culprits or potential reasons this could happen. Run through a scientific process of determining if these things are the sole reason this is happening. And in the end, leave this video with the reason this is happening. All right, number 1, desensitize androgen receptors. Well, as some people think, if you increase your dose of testosterone, your body then after 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks even, starts to get used to that extra androgen load. Your body exerts some sort of homeostatic feedback regulatory mechanism, and then just kind of puts you back where you were. All right, that's effectively you being desensitized to the response of your androgens because your body is trying to, in the interest of creating homeostasis or keeping it that way, prevent the effects from this excess load of androgens it's now dealing with. The problem with that theory is that it actually works the opposite in the scientific literature. The more testosterone you take, the more you upregulate androgen receptors. And by the way, the real visualization, how this actually works in terms of upregulation and downregulation, refers to the quantity of receptors. So does increasing the amount of androgen receptors in your body mean that you desensitize your response to the testosterone that you're taking? No, it actually makes no scientific sense at all. Why would you still be anabolic and energized, but then the sexual function plummets if it's desensitization? You would think everything would go wrong. You would stop responding to the anabolic nature of those higher doses of testosterone, as well as the energy-inducing nature of those higher doses of testosterone. And this does not happen, rendering the idea that it's desensitization to androgens or androgen receptor desensitization false. Okay, so if you've upped your dose, things were great for 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks or more, and then it regressed back to ED and libido problems, it's not a desensitization of the response. Okay, it's just not how it works. I can't go into the literature and then go through my experience and prove that that is even happening, so we've got to rule that out. Number 2, dysregulated neurosteroids. It's DHEA, it's pregnenolone, it's the 7 different neurosteroids that DHEA goes and builds. All these do affect neurotransmission to an extent, which does modulate libido. If you raise your dose in testosterone, are you dysregulating the neurosteroids more via potentially more suppression? Or since you've got higher levels of TAS, DHT, and estradiol, do you then need higher levels of DHEA and pregnenolone to keep up with that? And is that why this happens? Well, it's a probable theory. Here's the problem with it. I've tried to, in coaching work, which is where I get the basis of a lot of this information, to scale up the neurosteroids in these contexts as testosterone scaled up to try to prove the point. Okay, does the neurosteroid input, DHEA, pregnenolone, need to be commensurate in terms of magnitude to the higher doses of testosterone and thus the higher amounts of the metabolites, DHT, estradiol, and testosterone itself? And I have found over the years that the answer is no. If you give yourself more DHEA, you bump the dose from 20 to 50 to 75 milligrams DHEA, you give yourself some or more pregnenolone, the sexual dysfunction doesn't change. It's not neurosteroids. It's never been neurosteroids. Okay, it is useful to have adequate levels of DHEA and preg in your body. Most of us will, even without taking them, or if we dose those things a little bit, we'll be just fine. They're not that influential in sexual function. Third thing, SHBG lowered. Okay, you increase your test dose, likely the sex hormone binding globulin is going to lower. In the theory here is that, okay, lower SHBG equals higher free hormones. But since SHBG is a transport hormone, meaning it takes androgens at the tissue level and delivers them to androgen receptors there, if you got lower SHBG, you have less transport. Is that the reason sexual function crashes after initially increasing when you increase your dose? Well, for me, I would have to look at all the cases in which people have low SHBG but outstanding sexual function, and see if there are enough of them to prove that wrong. And the truth of the matter is, there are enough of them. SHBG being low, unless it is sub 6 or something, I've really not seen it to be a huge problem. And most people don't go down that low unless they're taking DHT itself, or better yet, Proviron. So nope, low SHBG with a proper protocol still equals good sexual function. It's not the SHBG in my opinion. Fourth potential, more suppression, more HPTA suppression. Okay, yes, absolutely, definitely, there's some science to that. You increase your testosterone dose, you're going to get more suppression, and that's going to be via the estradiol mainly, right? Estradiol goes up, suppresses the HPTA. Maybe then your HCG dose is rendered a little less effective because you're being shut down further at the testicular level and, of course, the neurological level. Is this the cause? To answer that question, you could answer it a couple different ways. One primary way is, well, just scale up the HCG then. And does the sexual function problems resolve then? The answer is no, they do not. In fact, usually they get worse for one very good reason. HCG is profoundly estrogenic, and it raises the estrogen. So the fifth and final potential culprit to why when you increase your dose, you get great sexual function for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks or more, and then it regresses back down to having ED and libido problems is estradiol. Okay, so is estrogen the cause, right? You increase your testosterone dose, definitely you're increasing the estrogen. If you were at 40 picograms per milliliter prior, you moved up from 150 to 200 milligrams a week, that estradiol at its peak is going to be 55, 60, 70, or 75 picograms per milliliter. You're going to get a quantifiable increase in estradiol. Okay, you can measure that on your bloods. You can go and look at it directly with proof, with lab work-based proof that that number has increased. Now, what do we know about estradiol in relation to penile vascular function and male sexual function in the context of TRT and out of the context of TRT? Well, number one, we know that estrogen plays a large, heavily studied role in venous leakage. Venous leakage is when blood enters the penis as it's supposed to enter it for erections, but the veins fail to seal shut and trap the blood to make you maintain an erection. The blood then drains out of the penis far too fast and you lose your erection. Ultimately, you can't really gain and maintain a sustainable erection in the context of venous leakage. It looks like this happens via estradiol, via a vascular endothelial growth factor or a nitric oxide mediated mechanism. But this has been heavily studied. So when looking at, is estrogen the cause of like regression down to bad sexual function after you increase your dose and you have an initial increase in the sexual function, estrogen inducing venous leakage is in fact very well studied. Okay, that's proven. The next element of estradiol is that estrogen equals, in a few studies, but one particular study, less penile base erection strength. Okay, this is not a theory of mine. There is no androgenic threshold over which, if you cross it, that isn't going to happen past a certain estrogenic threshold. You're going to have less strength of the erectile reflex, if you will, at the base of the penis, the higher the estrogen you have. This is proven. What other possible reasons? Estradiol desensitizes the dopamine receptors, the D2 receptor specifically, from the signal of dopamine, making that signal less efficacious and less compounded and effective at the receptor and the gene expression side. This is also proven. This is actually why some people have dopamine resistance in the context of prolactinomas. Okay, they'll take cabergoline for their prolactinoma, their pituitary tumor that secretes prolactin, and then eventually the cabergoline will stop working. And the reason that this happens is because estrogen essentially stops the efficacy of dopamine, or cabergoline in this case, binding to the D2 receptor. So guess what fixes it in those published scientific studies? Aromatase inhibitors. Why? Because they reduce estradiol. Proven. This is proven. Last possible reason here is that estrogen reduces TIDA neurons. Okay, these are tuberoinfundibular dopaminergic neurons. Estrogen actually inhibits those neurons. Okay, the TIDA neurons are a specialized set of neurons, effectively dopamine producing cells that are located in the hypothalamus. Estradiol inhibits their function, impairs them, not irreversibly, but when it's elevated, it impairs them. This is true. This is proven in the scientific literature. Okay, so we went through all those 5 things to try to look at the scientific evidence as well as my experience as a coach to see which one of those are responsible for when you increase your test, sexual function improves, and then it regresses after a set number of weeks. And what do you think the final conclusion is after everything that I've been through? Here's what I think the conclusion is. It's estrogen. Actually, I know that it's estrogen because in every single one of these particular cases that I've dealt with in a coaching capacity, lowering the estrogen back down within range for that person or their range, could be over range, but their sex-friendly zone based on the androgens that they have fixes the problem. And of course it does. Now, there's no substrate that is causing venous leakage. There's no substrate that is inhibiting the base of the penis and its erectile quality. There's no substrate that is desensitizing the dopamine D2 receptors from the signal of dopamine, and there's no substrate that is inhibiting the TIDA dopaminergic neuron firing. So I wanted to go through all that, and I know some of you might be thinking, well, that was convoluted. Couldn't you have just told us it's estrogen? So that we can look at all the rest of this stuff and look at it from a scientific perspective and go through the process of elimination, but logically refute that it's any of those other things and show you very clearly based on what's proven in the scientific literature, which is all we operate from, it is estradiol. So when you increase your dose, things are incredible. Why does the sexual function improve initially? Because estrogen is still at a lower baseline state. That's why. Then why does it regress? Because estrogen catches up. That's why. Now look, sometimes you can inject a lot less frequently and solve that problem because you trough in estrogen, and sometimes that works depending on the dose, and sometimes it doesn't. It really all depends on your individual estrogenic threshold, which is going to be a topic for a new video. But suffice to say for now, High Dose TRT Mastery, the video course, covers this. It covers how to high dose test, still have great libido and erections, manage the estrogen if you need to, but also enjoy cycle level anabolism and strength. This is our most popular product, literally downloadable digital product. It can be yours now instantly in the description of this video. I'll give you a coupon code. It's 20% off right now. Go download it, watch it, thank me later, execute the protocols, dial in on TRT. However, look, if you need one-on-one help with all this stuff, I mean, again, this is all I do. I spent the greater part of the last decade working on the biggest problems related to sexual function and TRT. You can hire me for any of the coaching packages or consult packages. The most popular right now are the TRT protocol audit. It's baseline, but it does get you a 25-minute call with me and an audit of your protocol and suggestions on what to change. But the most popular, especially as it relates to sexual function, is the TRT Sexual Function Enhancement Consult. This is the one to get if you've got libido and erection problems on TRT. Listen, it's a 45-minute deep dive call with me, assessment of everything, an online command center in which I will plot the protocols out for you, as well as adjustments that you need to make based on an analysis of your historical patterns on TRT. This is extremely targeted, and you can book it in under a minute at livecortex.com, and you and me are on that call as soon as the next day. We've got a source list, pretty self-explanatory. You can get that in the description of this video. We've got a bunch of other courses on mastering sexual function on TRT, like Mastering Libido and Erections, the Sexual Function Playbook. You can find all the stuff down in the description of this video or at livecortex.com. All right, my brother in Tess, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. I appreciate the fact that you've been with me. If you're still here, like the video. It makes a huge difference to the channel, and I need you to do it. Sub to the channel. Jump on board. This is all we talk about, and it's all we're going to talk about. We've helped thousands of men solve their biggest TRT problems, and I'd love to have you on board. Otherwise, kick ass, rock on, enjoy the rest of your day. And brother, I'll talk to you in the next one.